Oh God. Yeah. I don't know if you noticed before, I was actually my hands, I was just telling her to like
Yeah,
stop,
yeah.
like, stop coming to me.
Yeah.
And then,
But this is very real though. This is what's
yeah.
happening to people on Zoom calls all the time. And I have a mindset that it's pretty cool, you know, because everyone's going through it. So
Yes. And they're more understanding of it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Welcome to the Kind Boss podcast, brought to you by Outsourcing Angel, an Australian-based social enterprise that specializes in helping business owners free up their time and reduce staffing costs while helping to create employment opportunities for people in developing countries. Visit outsourcingangel.com today. Now, let me welcome your host, Linh Podetti.
Hello, kind listeners. I'm Linh Podetti, the host of the Kind Boss podcast, the podcast that shines the spotlight on bosses that lead by doing good and being kind. And today we'll be speaking to Glenn Tranter, founder of Glenn Tranter Consulting. Glenn is a high achiever whose year-on-year accomplishments saw him realize numerous awards and promotions until he burnt out in 2006. Burnt out was a wake-up call Glenn needed to understand how our approach to work must be scalable and sustainable. Glenn now shows individuals and teams how to achieve outcomes in less time by improving productivity by 100 minutes a day. He is also passionate at helping people work from home effectively. Listen on as he shares his journey and help you become a high achiever without experiencing burnouts. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode. And today I would like to welcome Glenn Tranter. Glenn, welcome.
Hi there, Lynn. Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah. So Glenn, I really wanted to talk to you because you are an expert around work from home. And I think that's what people need right now. But before we go into that, I really love to hear, because this is a Kind Boss series, and I really want to know what made you become a boss in the first place. And of course, because you're kind, that's why you're here. And that's why I'm here to talk to you. But I would love to hear a bit of a background, like, you know, what made you decide to be your own boss?
Yeah. So probably starts a long way is that I've spent most of my life involved in team sports. So basketball was my chosen sport. So that concept of working together to strive for a goal is something that's been embedded in me from a very young age. So as I graduated through works, I worked in IT for 20 years and worked my way up through the ranks from being a junior consultant to looking after Southeast Asia for a division. So as I got promoted through the ranks, initially I found that maybe I wasn't the greatest boss because I had, you know, classic example of the technical experts becomes the leader. There's not a magic wand where someone goes abracadabra, you are now a leader.
Yes.
So the standards that I held myself to account, which worked for me to be successful, wasn't necessarily successful originally in inspiring people. So I had to learn quite a bit. And back then I didn't have the luxury of going on leadership courses or anything like that. So it's a little bit of learning by trial and error.
Yeah. And so then when did you decide to start your own business now?
Well, even longer story. So as I'd worked my way up through the ranks, I've always been a high achiever. So went by that, and I don't mean that just with having a large ego, but it's something that I've always been driven to do. And so up until I was 40 years of age, when I'd go for a 5-kilometer run, I'd go for a personal best every time. That's just how I was driven. It doesn't mean that I was the fastest. It was mean that I would challenge myself. So I was always running against the watch. As I grew and got involved in leadership more and more responsibilities looking after Southeast Asia, my logic in being able to cope with it was to work harder. And I would work some crazy hours. I mean, I'm talking 60, 80 hours a week, had 3 young children, would travel 2 out of every 3 weeks. And my wife, Sam, would tell me that I couldn't keep it up. And I just ignored her because I was driven by achievement. So most of my divisions typically had double-digit growth. I enjoyed what I was doing because I enjoyed people. I enjoyed that mental stimulation. And I'm someone who's conscientious. So it was the job to do. So I would do that to the best of my ability.
Yeah.
In 2006, I burnt out. Sam was actually correct. And I actually developed chronic fatigue syndrome to the extent that I didn't work for 15 months because I couldn't work for 15 months. And I originally went into it thinking it was a form of physical ailment. And from a mindset perspective, I was fine with that because I knew athletes who had got that. But when I came out of it, I realized it was a form of mental illness where my brain essentially just said, I can't keep up this pace anymore. And, and when I look back at it, I think it's one of the best things that's happened to me from a perspective is that I got to appreciate things better. I got to focus on things that were more important to me. Haven't necessarily made as much money, but that's beside the point. So I felt that it was a good thing that actually happened to me.
Was it because you were always moving your goals away? Like every time you achieve something, you would push it further and it's just kind of never stopping?
Absolutely. So, and I didn't do a great job in celebrating goals because I just move on. I would just assume, well, you've got to get that. Now, what's the next one? What's the next one? And I'd only sleep 3 to 4 hours a night. And so I'd crash and burn every 6 months or so and dust myself up and get back on the horse or get back on the bike, so to speak. But it just wasn't sustainable and it certainly wasn't scalable.
Yeah. And so this is why you motivated you to start this consulting kind of coaching business that helps exactly that?
Well, between there, so I was actually doing meditation at the time, and I was Zen meditation, and my meditation teacher, when I was getting better, we chatted and he said, oh, you look like you're getting better. I said, yeah, I'm feeling much, much better. And he says, what are you going to do? And all the negative things flowed out of my mouth, what I didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And he goes, I think you should help people. And I'm like, how can I help people? I've got no idea. And he goes, oh, time's up. It was one of those sort of grasshopper moments. And between when I saw him in a week's time, I'd worked out that idea. And it was in the productivity space. It was about helping people work smarter. So I actually went and got a job for a company doing that. And I worked there for 8 years in doing that until one day the directors fell out of love and they decided to shut it down. And I came home and I told my wife, Sam, and I went out on the barbecue and started cooking dinner. And I literally had a back of an envelope and I wrote down a business plan, and that's where Glenn Tranter Consulting was formed.
Oh, beautiful. And so do you think that sometimes when people are really productive, they also just add on more work? Like the more productive they are, the more, if they don't work out their kind of priorities in life and kind of balance their life, they could tend to even create more time to do more work and could still go burnout. Do you think like that too?
Absolutely. I think it's the great word that you use there is balance. And highly conscientious people who are perfectionists is a very dangerous combination because they keep on pushing and keep on striving. And often,
can you rephrase that? That was beautiful. I want to hear it again. So it's the perfectionist and what?
Highly conscientious.
Elaborate that.
So they love doing a good job. They feel like they have to. If they're given something to do, if you say to me, jump, and I say, how high, Lynn?
Yeah.
It's having that sort of mindset, which are all fantastic attributes to have, providing they're in balance.
Yes.
And what I find is a lot of people, as they work through organizations, they're quite high achievers, but they haven't quite worked that out. So there's something in their life that's being impacted. So, and that's maybe their personal life, but that's maybe that they're just a little bit abrupt of how they deal with people, because I've been there myself and done that. So there's a lot of different things. So it's really important in breaking down in understanding what are you really trying to achieve and how's the smartest way to achieve it, and where are we really making life harder for ourselves where we don't have to.
Yeah. And so when it comes to balance, like what are the areas that you feel like people need to consider apart from just the financial goal or the career goal? Like what is the other areas?
We can't ignore our life of what the life means. So if I go back to when I was looking after Southeast Asia, traveling 2 out of every 3 weeks, I was missing out on stuff my kids were doing. And when I stopped, as people have stopped now, they've been forced to work from home, and you see the amount of things on social media saying, I'm actually homeschooling my children and it's actually fantastic.
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to work. I've got the children in the background when I've got young children. It's difficult, but you know what? It's not too bad.
Yeah.
I've got to work out how I can manage this better, but what have I been doing? So we start to think about what's really important.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we work hard to make more money for our family, but then we forget that our family's right here, that we're supposed to be with them, but we're not there. You know what I mean? So I think, this is going to help us to really integrate the important parts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the amount of marriages that are broken up because of the couples have stopped communicating, stopped talking, they've both had high pressure jobs or one has or whatever, what's happening now, the good side is it forces us to communicate. It forces us to, we're playing cards some nights now as a family, and there's so many laughs, and it's just different rather than maybe Sam and I watching TV, or Sam watching TV, me working, or vice versa, and the kids being in their own rooms watching Netflix or doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah. I really have embraced this time. I've accepted it. It is what it is. And then I started embracing, and it was hard at first, I must admit. But then now I'm like, you know what? This is, these are your kids. You wanted them, and they're here right now. And so enjoy it. So yeah, it's something I feel like we're all trying to learn, and I'm sure we're going to get the best of it. We're going to look back and go, that was the best time being with our kids.
Absolutely. And when you think about it, there's some people who have been thrown into work from home who've never done it before. And it's like they're running in against the wind.
Yes.
Because there's those people who they could be managers or leaders, or they could be in a role where they've done it for 1 or 2 days a week or longer than that. So they've got like a head start. Then there's jobs that are like consultants, sales representative, business development people who are mobile workers, who often it makes more sense for them to come home to finish off the day rather than to go into the office, because they would waste too much time traveling. Once again, they've got a head start. So some people are playing with a decked hand of cards loaded against them.
Yeah.
And it's those people who I'm helping just to really get their head around, what does working from home really mean for them at the moment?
Yeah. Can you tell me more? Okay. So here I am, this client of yours that are like, oh my God, I've been used to working at an office, and now I'm supposed to work at home, and I just feel lost. Like I don't know what's personal, what's business, and I'm not productive. I know that I'm not productive, and I probably know that if I don't perform, I could be cut as well, right? So I want to work hard. So yeah, what would you say to me?
I think that last point that you mentioned is a really, really important point. In a tough economic condition, there is going to be less jobs going around. So it's really important. And I don't want to be a naysayer or anything like that, but we've got to maximize the opportunity, because if we're sitting on our hands waiting for it all to happen and it'll all blow over, that's not going to happen. Because what remote working does, it actually opens up a global remote working possibility now for companies who hadn't considered that before. Now, other companies, and your business is about helping businesses do that, but that's quite different for nearly everybody. So it's a new competitive landscape going forward. So if we get back to your question that you ask, it's really important about that we've got to establish a rhythm, a working from home rhythm. And for me, it starts with mindset. That's the first thing that we've got to understand. Working at home is different than working in an office. Like, I love it, some of the people who I coach where they go, how are you finding? Oh, this is really cool. I get to sit around in my pajamas all day. I can work from bed, work from the couch. And I'm going, that's great in theory, but it won't give you lasting success. That's the very first thing. So we've got to have this concept that we've got to get dressed, ready to work for work. We've got to get in work mode. Now, that doesn't mean you have to wear a 3-piece suit, but it shouldn't mean in your pajamas either. So, because there's got to be this start to the day, this end of the day. And the simple logic I use, I'll get dressed in whatever I feel comfortable in answering the front door. If someone was to knock, when we used to have people knocking on the door, not that we get that anymore. So mindset is the first thing, but then we've got to have the environment set up. So some people have studies that they're able to work in, and they can shut the door and lock themselves in. Everyone doesn't have that. So I live in quite an open plan house where I am. So I've got my area where I'm working, and that's sort of my work zone. And to get on calls like this, I've got to communicate with the rest of the family. Can you try and keep the tone down a little bit? Because I'm on an important webinar or on a podcast or a call, coaching session, whatever that is. So we've got to have areas. Now, for some people, that's just the dining room table. But once again, there's got to be a start to the day and the end of the day. That might mean we're closing off our laptop. Like one of the ladies who I coach, she starts a day, she leaves the house, she walks around the block, comes back in, because she's recreated going to work. And when she finishes work, she does that. And that's her little cue. Other people, it's just closing the laptop. or it's just getting their pack of papers. And there's less papers now because we're more digital now with working from home, but it means just closing everything up. So
yeah, I really love that because I can relate because I've been working online for 10 years. However, there were probably a lot of years at the beginning that I was not productive in that sense. As in, if I was talking to you or had you coaching me, I would have known how to really be productive. Because what happened was I basically didn't have that kind of rhythm. So I would just be, sorry. Now my kid is annoying me. I'll just give you an example. He's over here. He's just about to talk to me. So I'm in a meeting. Thank you. I'm in a meeting. Oh my God. I'm gonna leave the blooper in here and then I'm going to edit. But let me just give me a second. They just forgotten the rule that I said. Monique Jordan, I'm on the phone. Like I'm on the thing. Do you understand? Yeah. I'm recording. I'm gonna download this and then can you please close the door and not open it, not ask me again? Oh my God, like I just don't get them. Like they'll just completely forgot. I said that Mummy's going to be recording a video. Close the door and don't come out until I let you. Quickly, please. Oh God, yeah. I don't know if you noticed before. I was actually my hands. I was just telling her to like stop, stop coming to me. Yeah, okay, so what I was saying was when I first started out, no one taught me the right way of working from home either, and so I reckon I would have wasted years of unproductivity. It's because, like you said, I kind of worked anywhere. I didn't have my own space, and so I would say that I was busy, but then I was kind of surfing social media. I was doing this because you're not in that work mode, right? So now what you're saying to me makes a lot of sense. And then the other problem I have is I didn't know when to stop. So I would be working all the way till nighttime. But like I said, I wasted a lot of the real actual work. And then even late at night, I'll be still working on the phone and on the computer because I didn't set a boundary around what is work, what is not, but it's the setting up, like you said. Wow, that's amazing how your client walks around the corner and make it look like it's going to work.
But what you're really talking about, there's a lot of people are doing this right this very moment. And the impact on our well-being, our mental health, on burnout, we've got to be really, really mindful of this. So sort of further to what I was saying about mindset, I think with how we work, everyone's got a unique way they do their best work. Now, I call that a working rhythm. And to me, a working rhythm is made up of three things. The first one, it's the cadence of an effective workflow. We need to focus on the content that really matters. So what's important in our role. And we need to work with others. So we need to collaborate with others. Yeah. Whether we're working in an office or whether we're working from home, we've still got to do those three things. So we often think by working from home, because we're not traveling anymore to an office, that we'll work less hours. Yet we find ourselves working longer hours. And we find ourselves working longer hours because we think we'll get less interruptions because we're not in the office. So there's not all these people interrupting us, but there's greater distractions when we're working from home. We might have our children at home. For a lot of people, it's actually the fridge. As they get stressed, they go and eat more. As they eat more, they get more lethargic. So they're not feeling good about it. There's Netflix, there's TikTok, there's doing chores. There's so many different things. So we've replaced interruptions with the greater level of distractions than what we've ever had in our life working in an office. Yet we're still getting all these distractions. We've got Slack pinging at us. We're getting instant messages. We're getting all these sorts of things. So we've got to reduce the distractions. And the funny thing is, when we work from home, because we've lost the security blanket of being close to people, even though we know what to do, we actually procrastinate more. So we're a little bit unsure, and then we'll go, not sure, and we put it aside. So we're wasting time. So under the cadence banner, we just need this really effective workflow. We need to procrastinate less. We need to get less distractions. We need to be able to manage the interruptions that there are.
Yeah. So how would you, what is your strategy on actually minimizing the distraction and all those things? Is it just setting up the protocol first and just working it out first, and then so you're aware of what not to do?
It's working on each individual to get them to understand when they're being distracted. And it's getting them to understand, because on average, the average professional gets distracted once every 6 minutes, but it takes almost 25 minutes to get back on track. There's studies that say this. So once people start understanding some of these things, and we call them out, We say, all right, what are they? So we customize it to you. So Lynn, what are your distractions? What's really hitting you? And you might clam up and you might say, I've got none. I'll go, oh yeah, I'll just pry it a little bit deeper until you crack and you open up and share, because we've got to call them. We've got to get awareness around these.
Yeah, because sometimes you might be just doing things on automation. You don't even notice the little things that you do. Yeah, because you're just so used to doing it, you can't see it. Yeah.
It's building good habits. And this is actually, that's a great point that you've raised there. When we're at our most comfortable, guess where we're at? Typically at home, isn't it? Because we're not going to show to people unless we're on a video call like this. When we're at our most comfortable, for some people, that's a very dangerous combination, because they get so relaxed and so chilled, or they get so frantic that they're overwhelmed, that they grind themselves to a halt. So it can be both ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah.
So we've got to have this cadence. So what I do is I take them through a program, and it's about really just customizing it for you and helping you identify these things, minimize these things, and give you some strategies. So if you're a procrastinator, I'll give you 12 strategies to reduce procrastination.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to use all 12. You just have to pick out the 1, 2, or 3 that works best for you.
Yeah.
So then what we do is we get into content. And when I talk about content, typically I end up asking someone to say, so Lynn, to be effective in your role, step me through, what do you have to do? Tell me, and I might scratch my head and I might go, is that all? Is there something else? So we'll vet that, and then I'll go, great, show me your schedule. And typically in the person's schedule, it's not there.
Yeah. So how would you achieve that? Yeah, if you don't do that. Oh.
And that's often a light bulb moment, because we're not planning, we're not scheduling. It's just because people are too busy to plan or don't think they need to plan. So we've got to put these basics in, because what's the difference between a high achiever and everyone else? Typically, it's not that they're smarter. Sometimes they are. Typically, they're not. What their real expertise is in, they're actually doers. They say they're going to do something and they execute. And they execute consistently. And they're not getting distracted and falling off this straight line with these other things. They're just executing. I work for a lot of high achievers. That's the single biggest difference that they are. So it's just the consistency in what they're doing.
I really love that, because you're kind of like this peak performance coach, and you kind of, with your kind of sports background, you're kind of like our sports coach, but for work, for our career. It's beyond just, I think, work from home. I really think that you can bring the best out of people, but making them more productive. With more production, they are going to be able to bring more results for the company or their own business.
Absolutely.
And means more money and more time.
Can you write my stuff for me, please?
That's amazing. Like, I just get it now. I just ding. And I think that I kind of was that bad client for you back then, in the sense that I was spending many years just being so unproductive, and I never came across a coach like you, and that would have saved me so many years.
but I was myself. I wouldn't have had chronic fatigue. I wouldn't have overworked myself if I had been steered in the right direction, because what's happened in the time management industry over the years has been a one-size-fits-all methodology, whereas that works, but it only works for 70% of people, and the number might even be less now. How about if we could get a technique and we could flip it based on the individual, because we've all got our unique strengths, weaknesses, and preferences. Yeah. So yet we set up some of our preferences based on our weaknesses, which is absolutely crazy, and we don't realize it. So we get in the way of ourselves of making progress.
Yeah, I mean, I totally really believe in having a coach. Like, I myself I sometimes have a PT who sets me up, and then I sometimes go back to training on myself, but that's because of years of training. So but right now I work with a life coach, because I really need to just sort of get my life in order, and feeling I'm on the right direction. And then I have also like a scaling coach, specifically because I want to scale my business. But I really think that everyone kind of needs to go straight to the right expert with the right information, just to free yourself up from all the figuring it out and wasting time and even money along the way. Yeah. Well, before we go into my next question, I want to just break it up with asking you a few fun questions. Okay?
Sure.
Cool.
Yep.
So this is called the this or that kind of question. Yep. I'm going to give you 5, and all you have to do is pick one and just give me a reason why.
As long as it's not one of these TikTok things where people have got the fingers up in the air and they've got to reduce the fingers.
I won't make you do any dancing or any crazy thing. Okay. Number 1, Tokyo or Bali?
Bali.
Why?
Been there a couple of times, relaxing on the beach.
relaxing kind of guy.
It's just wonderful because, you know, we're generally busy and Sam loves going to beaches. So that's why I choose Bali.
Oh, awesome. Lamborghini or Ferrari?
I'm 6'2" tall, so both are reasonably difficult to get into. So I'll say Ferrari.
Ferrari. Red Ferrari?
I'll go red, yes.
Red.
If you're going to do it, you might as well go red. Yeah.
Happiness or fulfillment?
Happiness or fulfillment? Geez, that's a tough one. I want both. I want both, and I think
if I'm choose one,
if I'm fulfilled, I'll be happy. But I can be happy, but not be fulfilled. But providing that's achieving what the bigger picture is, then that's better. Then.
So you're leaning towards fulfillment because
Yeah,
fulfillment covers happy.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Easter eggs or candy canes?
I don't eat either.
If you had to eat one,
I'd go Easter eggs.
Easter eggs, chocolate.
Yeah.
So you don't eat chocolates at all?
I eat 95% 𝗕liche chocolate, so reduced sugar chocolate.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're a very healthy kind of person. Like
I try to be. I try to be.
Nice. All right. Last question. Bill Gates or Oprah?
Oh, Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Bill Gates. And that's probably because of my IT background.
Yeah. And they're both generous souls. So yeah, I like them both.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, the next question I have for you is I see this kind of thing on the background there. I really want to see what this chart that you've got there.
Yeah. And I think for people for working from home, they've got to get really deliberate about what they want to achieve. And if we're not deliberate, then we find the hours just get wasted away. Now, there's a multitude of different ways of doing that. So I want to give you maybe 3 ways if that's okay to do so.
Sure.
So the first way is just a really, really simple Kanban board. So this is just on butcher's paper.
Yep.
Sitting over here, and it's just got to do, doing, done. So I can set this up for the week. I can set it up for the day. And it's literally Post-it notes. As I move it from one area to the other, I move the Post-it note. So I'm seeing progress. And the done, I like having a done area because that's my hero file. I can see that I've got this sense of achievement. So if I just do one, it's as simple as that. Now, if you have little people in your life, you've got to put it up high enough so that they can't get the hot little hands on it. But it's a really, really simple approach to actually in just keeping me focused.
Oh, that is so awesome. I mean, I guess I do a little bit of that in my reminder to-do list. You know, in my Apple, I kind of create one called to-do list, and then I have one called must do today.
Yep.
So I have a little bit of a different system, but I really like that one. And I think a lot of people will find value in that.
And teams will often do this. They can do this on a Trello board. They can use, if they want to do it electronically, so it's visible across the entire team. Yep. They can do that on Microsoft Planner. There's a bunch of different tools that you can get like Asana. There's so many of them. I'm quite agnostic to what the software is because they all work. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. So my next question for you is, so we've been talking more about us individually trying to be productive and doing whatever. Now on the kind of boss side, like the employer side, what kind of, I guess I can imagine as a boss, if you're new to this, you're kind of wondering, is my team really working? Am I micromanaging if I'm asking them too much question? Like, how do I, as a leader, actually be, I guess, feel like that my company is still together and functioning and not damage the culture along the way because of this kind of work at home arrangement?
And actually working remotely is very, very different to working in an office. And I wrote a blog about that today, and I used the example of Blockbuster Video, where they were the #1 for rental movies and rental games, and then online movies or streaming came along, and they didn't move with the times. If we've got our same work methods using the old way of working in an office, it's not going to really work as well when working remotely. So the examples there is the first one with meetings. So we know that, like, one of the biggest bugbears people have in working in an office is meetings. They got to attend too many meetings. They're a waste of time. And then when we go to remote meetings, if we're just trying to hold the same meetings the same way, it's actually far worse because we're not getting engagement. So we've got to reduce the number of meetings that we have. We can communicate status online. There's no need to actually just have a status meeting for someone to get up and regurgitate what they've done. We can all read. Maybe that meeting would be better off if we've got any questions based on the status that we want to ask somebody. So we can flip the way we're doing meetings. We can shorten the meetings, and meetings need to have more engagement when it's remote. So there's got to be more questions to people, because otherwise what they do, they drift off, they daydream, start typing quietly and silently because they're doing other work, so they're not concentrating. So there's an opportunity with working from home or working remotely to actually be far more effective with our communication. So if we think about meetings, we need way of having water cooler sort of chats. So we need somewhere to hang out, just to have a little bit of fun every now and again. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, providing that's not 95% of our day. So we've got to set up a channel, whether it's a Slack channel or on Microsoft Teams, you pick the tool, whatever it is, but have somewhere to have that sort of fun. And we need to buddy people up together. So
interesting. Tell me more about that.
So that may be, let's say you and I have been assigned to buddies and I'm struggling with something. I might be struggling with a bit of motivation today. I'm just not getting it and the kids are annoying me. There's all those sorts of things going on. And I might just be able to give you a buzz and go, how's your day going? And you might say to me, hey, what do you need to what do you need to achieve today? And I might say, well, it's A, B, and C. And you just might hold me accountable in achieving that. You say, well,
I really like that idea. Like kind of like this accountability partner.
Absolutely. So we've got to have a way. And then for the leader to the people who are working for them, they should have been doing their one-on-ones anyway. There's a lot of businesses that have never had time to do that. All right, let's lessen the number of meetings that we're having and wasted meetings, and let's get in our regular one-on-one catch-up. And instead of that being checking up on what are you doing, you really want to be knowing about, so what's working, what's not working, where do you need help, those types of things. So we're looking short term, but we're looking medium and long term as well. So it gets to be where we're collaborating and it's not this micromanaging. So and we're getting this performance culture being driven. So we've got to understand the measures that people should have.
Yeah, I really agree with you, because at our company as well, we try to update the kind of work progress through our project management tool or Excel, Google Doc sheet. But when we catch up, it's really about strategizing or questioning, how things are going. And because we also, fell into the trap of a lot of meetings, and then the more people there are, the more it took longer. And so we really just had to kind of figure out, okay, how can we do it less? And so, the meetings, we want to keep the meetings as short as possible. But I really like the new thing that you're saying is in terms of asking more questions so that people are engaged. Because I kind of noticed that's an issue for us sometimes, because especially when you're mooting everybody and you're talking, you kind of feel like you're not sure if they're actually listening and if they're looking else, doing something else, and you're not. So, what do you say about that? Let's say you had a group of 10 people and, if everyone's on loud, obviously you can hear people's backgrounds and you kind of mute people. But then, the problem is if you unmute them more, then it's noisy. So how do you kind of get the engagement in that sense?
I like meetings being flipped where everyone's got a allocation in their meeting to actually ask questions themselves. So that it's getting sort of interactive like that. And we use chat sometimes just to raise our hand, or on Zoom now, I think there's a period you can put your thumb up in the air or something that might say, hey, I want to talk now. So there's some teams, what they do, they pull out a hat and put a hat on their head. That means I've got something to ask.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Make it fun. There's a bunch of different things that we can do, but the key is that we shouldn't have too many people in meetings. And I like the Jeff Bezos logic from Amazon of the 2 pizza rule. Only have a meeting that can feed 2 pizzas will feed everybody.
So how many people is usually that in that sense?
That would be about 8 to 10.
8 to 10 max.
That's your max. And that's your max. It doesn't mean it has to be 8 to 10 minimum. That's 8 to 10. as a max, because otherwise they're too big, they're unwieldy, and you've just got people just,
especially when you're on Zoom, you probably can't even see them all. You got to slide the next next page to see who's actually there. Really awesome tips. Okay, so the interview has been amazing, and I could sit here talking about this because it's my passion too, the whole work from home. But I'm going to go to, so this is a Kind Boss series, obviously. So my question to you is, what do you think a kind boss mean?
A kind boss, to me, it's really, really simple, and it's something that my parents taught me when I was a young child. So I was born in the country, so born on a 1,200-acre farm, and it's really simple: treat people as you wish to be treated. So if you want to be treated well, then you better treat other people well, and I just think that's so true. We often mistake and confuse if they're not engaging with us to the level or getting the level of excitement we'd like to see, that they're resisting, but often they're not quite comprehending. So maybe it's just communication. So that we've got to understand things from someone else's perspective. Because what we intend to say and how we intend to execute it may not necessarily be how it actually happens.
Love it. Thank you. Great answer. So what are the ways that people can work with you? So I can see that it's kind of like a bit of coaching, but what does that coaching look like? Is there kind of, sometimes people have like training, paid training, there's some whatever else. So share with us, if I was a client, what are the different ways I can work with you?
Yeah, certainly. So I don't like a cookie cutter, one size fits all approach. I like customizing my solutions for teams and individuals. So I do some one-on-one coaching with people, and they're micro sessions. The largest session is an hour and a half that I spend with somebody. So it's micro learning that we're talking about. I like building in some time so that we can check up. So there's implementation happening. So there's got to be an outcome that we're driving for. So that's coaching. But I will also, and my coaching, and so my executive coaching program, that goes over 6 months, and it's a session every fortnight over 6 months. And each session is just an hour long. So it's really focused. And the first thing we do on every session that we come back, we go, right, what worked and what didn't work from last time. So there's that accountability piece that we're holding. So we implement as we go along. I run group trainings. So I now do that in a virtual, because we've got no other choice. And group trainings, that could be literally any number of people. So once again, depending on what the customer requirements are, because I've built all of my own content, I can slice and dice it various ways. So we can drill down if someone just wanted to talk about how can we reduce procrastination, or how can we have our meetings better, then I can facilitate sessions based on that.
I really love that. And I think even as a leader, I would even, and let's say my company all of a sudden had like all these staff that were working from home, I would even personally invest in having my staff being coached. Otherwise, because I can't obviously maybe not have the time or the expertise to bring the best out of them. And I think, it's having my team being supported by someone like yourself.
And often I work with people, and how I get around a lot is just based on referral business. So I work with someone in an organization, and they go, oh, that was fantastic. Can you go and sort out this team member? Or can you go and sort out this department? Because they're actually absolutely driving me crazy with their last minute demands and so on like that.
And I think that unless they sort this out as well, because sometimes there's a lot of misunderstanding that can happen when you're working online. And like you said, it's like how you think you've given the information isn't perceived the right way. And because for us, sometimes I might give a task, and even though they're working on it, but they forgot to let me know that they're working on it, I kind of think, what are they doing? And so there's that kind of unnecessary stress or assumption and finger pointing that might happen if we don't do it right.
Yeah. In a remote working environment, delegation is such an important skill to have. And whenever we delegate, we've really got to check that they understand what needs to be done, what the time frame is, what the level of quality is, and that they're bought in, that they're actually going to do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to ask one more question, and we're going to definitely have all the links to your program or to how they can contact you in the description below in the video. But my last question is, if tomorrow was your last day, how would you have written your eulogy? What do you want people to remember you for?
Really simply for me, that I've tried my best, and my intent has been earnest, regardless of how that has been executed. But I've tried my best because it's what I believe in, that I just love achieving. So I jump out of bed based on achieving myself. I jump out of bed based on helping others.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much today for spending time with me. I really learned a lot, and I know the audience will be too, because I think it's something that it's forever kind of improvement with productivity and working from home. I think it's something that we're just going to need ongoing support and help.
Yeah. And thank you so much for having me, Lynn.
No worries.
Thank you for joining our podcast today. We hope this interview has inspired and humbled you to be a kind boss. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let us know what you think about our show. If you have any questions, please visit outsourcingangel.com. Until then, stay kind and spread love.